Valencia as he recovers from a serious left shoulder injury. He's replaced once again by Paul Espargaro, who once again was superb. 4 races in a row, he's gone directly into Q2. And of course we are missing our new world champion Marc Marquez. That's the reason why you're seeing Nicolo Buliga as part of the factory Ducati project here this weekend. As Acosta then now lowers the bar, we're down to 1:43.331. Acosta 1.5 seconds clear of Oliveira.
Credit to Buliga, who briefly went 4th. He's now dropped back down to 5th as Joan Mir takes 2nd place. So to Costa on a 43.3, he's a second clear of Mir. Naturally, in these conditions, different riders with different confidence levels, getting up to speed at different rates, you do see a massive spread in the lap time. So Mir's 9/10 behind Acosta. He's then in turn half second clear of Oliveira and Marini. Buliga is 2 seconds off the pace, but still in a very fine 5th place. And Pedro Acosta, I guess he's playing with house money really here this weekend and next weekend in Valencia.
Tes. Aman nggak suaranya? Apakah suara aku aman? Ajazz, ini aku nyambi ya. Aku ada event anjir. Jadi ntar aku war sambil nonton MotoGP anjir kualinya. Bentar lagi nih. Ini FP2 tinggal 5 menit. Habis itu berhenti 10 menit apa ya? Habis itu baru lanjut Q1 dulu. Kasih sikir. Seru nih Q1-nya nih. Dump truck soalnya. Iya, bukan ragu-ragu sih, lebih ke gripnya nggak ada. Soalnya kan ada wet patch. Terus pakainya kan agak bingung juga mau pakai slick atau pakai wet. Soalnya basahnya dikit, keringnya juga dikit gitu loh. Tapi udah pada pakai dry slick sih. Jadi ini udah track-tracknya Miller banget ini buat Q1. Oliveira kelihatan strong tuh, kelihatan. Ya, sok boleh. Binder juga ini harusnya bagus. Dija kayaknya agak jelek nih di sini nih. City pihak.
Oliveira, and he might well be doing so at the moment. On course to set the fastest time late on in this morning session, just 3 minutes remaining. Bagnaia, Mir getting faster as well. The times are going to just drop continually now because these are clearly the best conditions we've had of this morning session. The track conditions are going to improve. We've got pretty much a dry surface, temperature in the tyres, a bit more rubber being laid down as well. Oliveira climbs up to 6. Bagnaia is 2nd, and now Joan Mir duly does occupy top spot with a 42.664.
With the city from behind.
Who had a big crash yesterday morning in free practice 1. Did go out in practice and did a pretty good job, it has to be said. Ultimately 15th quickest he was, and only around about a third of a second away.
But if you close your eyes,
good ending to the session for Aldeguer. He got straight through to Q2 yesterday for just the 2nd time in the last 7 Grand Prix. Friday afternoons have been a little bit tough going for our Mandalika Grand Prix winner. 8th in the World Championship. As I said yesterday, that's likely to be as good as it gets for the rookie. 40 points he is adrift of Fabio Di Gianantonio with just 2 Grand Prix remaining. It's still been a brilliant debut season for Fermin Aldeguer. as he comes over the line now. Surely he's going to be taking top spot. Briefly, he does indeed. 141.654. He's going to be usurped very, very quickly though by the likes of Betseki, by Banyaya. Mir once again is on another good lap. On board with Bez. A few bumps, as you can see there, going through that final corner. That's where it was perhaps a little bit slick as well. We heard some comments from other riders earlier on in this session. Betseki up in second. He was one rider that Alex Marquez, Pedro Costa in particular, identified as a big, big threat over the course of the sprint and Grand Prix. They were all saying, yeah, we're keeping a very close eye on Betseki, looking for an immediate bounce back from what was a very underwhelming Malaysian Grand Prix. When you look at how strongly Aprilia was over in Japan, over in Indonesia and in Australia.
In the end, though, in the championship, he kind of got away with one with Banyaya's puncture on the Sunday. Banyaya took third back in the World Championship when he won the sprint, and Betseki could only finish in sixth from deep on the fifth row of the grid. But then, of course, with Banyaya in the Grand Prix, he moves back ahead of the two-time MotoGP World Champion. Betseki is 5 points ahead of Pecco Bagnaia for third overall. Bagnaia is then in turn 26 ahead of Pedro Acosta.
Wah, bakal kering ini ntar Qualy ini mah fix.
Do you really care about finishing third in the World Championship? And he said, well, third's better than fourth. There's probably a few euros in it in terms of bonuses.
Pindah fifth. Ya ini udah fix ini.
Pecco was quite keen to reiterate was he's not here to play
12 sudah mentok.
Third place in the World Championship might be good enough for some.
Belum. Masih bisa satu lap lagi di Jak.
High standards. Of course, it will be his lowest World Championship finish for 3 or 4 seasons, wouldn't it? Double World Champions, a close second to Jorge Martin last year. It's not just the fact that he's going to finish potentially as high as third in the World Championship. It's the and the Marquez siblings. I mean, Pecco is not far shy of 300 points behind Mark.
GATERON Mings to Konsa.
And in Japan, we're not going to see him race for the rest of the season.
Yah, milih mulu dia, Mir.
There's been between the two factory Ducati superstars this year.
200 loh. Nah, muncul kan nih orang.
He's out there on the circuit at the moment, one of the last riders to really get up to speed on slick tyres. Here he now comes through 11 and up towards 12 and 13. And he's not going to be troubling the Marquez brothers from here. So
Yo, she made it P12.
Alex Marquez 1-2, Mir third from Betseki, Bagnaia, Acosta and Zarco. And Gian Antonio probably on target here to slot in just behind Zarco and ahead of Raul Fernandez. They're 7th and 8th.
So at least we are going to get a full dry circuit.
Sektor 4-nya dia ragu dia.
And in Q2,
Jelek banget sektor 4-nya anjir. Terus cornernya. Oh, bah, yang penting aman lah.
Hasn't got a great record here though in Portimao, 10th in the Grand Prix here last year. He's only finished in 3 starts in the Premier Class. Hasn't scored a point in both of our sprints here previously. It's not a particularly good circuit in the past for the 27-year-old Italian. But a good start to sprint Saturday as far as.
But if you close your eyes.
For his 4th sprint podium of the campaign this afternoon, potentially a major victory from Aldeguer, who's picked up medals in Le Mans, in Aragon, and most recently in Mandalika. Still awaiting though his first gold.
He did say yesterday that this track was one of the easiest he found to learn on board a MotoGP bike. It is very fast and flowing. And Aldeguer certainly enjoying it, as he is enjoying the Jack Miller jump, the Joan Mir jump. Either way, Fermin Aldeguer certainly enjoying life, certainly a little more comfortable a jump over there with the track now drying out. Here's Joan Mir, who certainly enjoyed his launch over here on the wets earlier on and getting even more air under his tyres now on the slicks.
Just really enjoying it at the moment. He's a completely different character to the sort of forlorn figure he got over the last couple of years when Honda were just really struggling for any kind of performance, any kind of improvement really. I think that was another issue.
Kayaknya kurang kenceng berarti. Nah, segini kayaknya.
In Q2, along with Mia, Betseki, Banyaya, Acosta, and Zarko, who could be the top 7 around doing really well, really, to take 8 plays on Slicks, Polisbargo 9 from Miller, Binder, Gian Antonio, and Nicolo Buliga 13th, Chantra 14th, ahead of Oliveira, who led at 1 point when he went to Slicks. So too did Quattararo, he fell back to 16th in the end after pitting early. Savadori 17th, ahead of Marini, Bastianini, Agura, Rins, and Frankie Morbidelli 22nd. He'll be in Q1 shortly.
So Grazzini 1-2 at the end of that FP2 here, with just 2 rounds remaining in our 20. Next, we go qualifying for the penultimate time in this year's MotoGP World Championship, with a fast Fermin Aldeguer leading the way into Q1 and Q2 next live here at the Algarve International Circuit in Portimao. Good morning and welcome back to Portugal's sunny Algarve coast.
Apa?
You join us live as we are set
Ceritain emot paling males ya.
in the 2025 MotoGP World
Tai.
Championship. Just 4 qualifying sessions remain of our longest.
Itu suruh mirror, jangan Willy coba di last corner.
Q1 over 15 minutes.
Apa nih?
The top 2 advancing into the second qualifying session. Where
Awas aja kalau ada aku ya. Siapa nih? Siapa nih? Masih ada 2 nih, ada 2 slot nih, siapa nih? Lagi mikir dulu. Oh, bukan aku. Satu lagi. Dari kemarin Bir bisa catatin waktu terbaik sebenarnya kalau di last corner nggak Willy dia. Ya aman, gak ada aku aman. Mau yang dapat.
Pedro Acosta, Marco Betseki, Joan Mir, Joan Zarco, Fabio De Gian Antonio, Fermin Aldeguer, who has just led a damp FP2.
Mic-nya pecah-pecah. Bentar.
Polisbargo and Iagura.
Karena terlalu tinggi kayaknya, bentar ya.
House of Prulia Agura-san getting directly into Q2 for only the 3rd time this campaign, along with our season opener in Thailand and most recently in Catalonia. Those 10 then already safely through into Q2.
Tes. Sekarang gimana? Tes. Pecah-pecah nggak? Masih pecah-pecah nggak? Halo Mas Momen, aduh, namanya ganti-ganti ya. Cuma masih pecah nggak? Nah, kekencengan ininya. Namanya ganti-ganti. Ini harusnya Marini bisa lolos sih. Marini sama Morbi. Yamaha aku agak ragu sebenarnya. Oh ini Jack Miller ada 2 anjir. Jack Miller ada 2. Kemarin harusnya bisa tuh baru kedua. Ya ente. Tipis. Ini ada Raul juga sih. Ya udah kayaknya Marini Quartararo deh. Morbidelli. Quartararo ada problem dia. Exit cornernya jelek katanya. Iya, tadi kelihatan bagus sih Oliveira, coba ya. Soalnya masih agak-agak basah-basah dikit walaupun udah mulai improve lap time-nya tadi. Coba lihat ntar. Ini aku sambil ini ya, soalnya aku ada event. Ada event. Event sebelum match lagi.
If he does want some sort of positive omen though, the last two times Fabio Quartararo had to go through qualifying 1, Barcelona and Misano. On each of those occasions, he ended Q2 on the front row of the grid. So by
aku dapat juga. Kok aku ada logo giniannya? Bentar.
In Q1 for the first time since the San Marino Grand Prix is Quartararo. Only Marc Marquez though in 2025 has scored more pole
Aku ternyata yang dapat,
babi.
babi.
5 poles so far this year for Quartararo. It will be going some if he's able to make it 6 here today in Portimao.
Under your leadership, babi. Gue bronze lu apa? Aku masih nggak ada ranknya. Aku jarang banget main rank. Aku lebih sering main deathmatch. Masih pada toxic gitu nggak sih? Aku males mbak. Kalau main solo Valorant tuh toxic banget. Bulega coy.
He's been in some hostile atmospheres recently as Nicolo Bulega. He just has to think back to the Superbike finale at Jerez and Topo Pascatioglu on the Sunday afternoon. He might have found himself at the receiving end of some more boos if he'd connected with Oliveira there.
I think Oliveira's going to be thinking, come on pal, it's FP2.
You're new around here.
What's going on here? Bulega then was very impressive yesterday. 17th fastest he was on the time screens then. As our second to last Q1 session then of the season is underway here in Portimao. And Bastianini suffering once again on a Friday, reporting once again, pretty much like every other Friday so far this season. It's almost like whenever he arrives at a new circuit, he feels like on that RC16, he's starting from scratch. 1.1 seconds.
I'm sorry.
Alex Marquez yesterday was the beast. Second in the Grand Prix here last year from pole position, his last pole position. I don't think too many of us are expecting to be in the hunt for back-to-back poles here in Portimao. But hey, this is MotoGP. We do say never, but long odds I think on the beach repeating his Q2 brilliance from last year.
Very much so. Look out for him this afternoon though and tomorrow.
Tergantung website bacakannya sih, bisa 0, bisa 5 sampai 15 detik biasanya. Tergantung sih. Kadang iklan ngaruh juga kadang. Kadang ada yang 1 menit juga, itu yang parah sih. Kadang semenit gitu.
Yeah, if you look at the most places gained throughout the Sunday Grand Prix so far this year, Enea Bastianini on 6 occasions has made up the most ground.
Aku gawe di mana ya ini?
Perfect proof of just how much he struggles to.
You have assumed, tai, aku harus gawe anjir.
Nothing wrong with his race
Golden
pace,
Lion.
but just gives himself too much of a mountain to climb on Saturdays and Sundays, giving himself a
Bisa ngasih diri sendiri ya.
making 6 poles this year is Quartararo.
Gak ada.
Initial mission, first goal is going to be just to make sure he's in the top 2 at the end of this 15-minute
Ada, anjing.
session. We're going to find out what the reference lap time will be. We were getting 41s at the back end of that damp FP2.
Sainz nggak di aku dah.
Seen of the weekend so far was from Alex Marquez yesterday, a 137.974. That is the only 37 we've had actually of the weekend.
Nanggung Spotify nanggung ya, jangan. Ya sih, agak-agak nanggung memang.
He was on the factory Honda back in 2023, 137.226. Unlikely we're going to get anywhere near that based on the fact that all that
Memang nanggung.
wash away a lot of the rubber.
Aku mau langganan band sport juga nanggung.
Damp patches for the riders still to negotiate around small parts of this Portimao track.
Yeah, they're aiming very much at a moving target on this racetrack. What we'll expect it to be a conventional qualifying session that they'll do 2 runs on 2 brand new tyres, but when the track is changing as much as it is, sometimes it's in your best interest just to stay out there, do lap after lap after lap, and just continue to get faster and faster. So we'll understand from Quartararo's first lap what we can expect. He slipped down the order to
Ya, jam 10 live dong pasti. Mau sekalian sama sprint race nggak F1? Tapi aku nggak tahu anjir bajakannya di mana. Sprint race F1 jam berapa? Kalau bisa nabrak aja sekalian. Mulai Malaysia kemarin nggak berpanjang. Iya sih, menanggung tinggal 2 ini. Hotswapable.
What is it? A near 1,000 meter start finish straight is where the Yamaha's getting absolutely destroyed. They just have no top speed once again. Another complaint that Quartararo was talking about yesterday. Just looking at the early top speeds.
Jam 9 berarti sprint race F1 dulu baru MotoGP. Bisa sih. Ini aku di sini berarti aku off jam 7. Ngedesain, aku ada ngerjain desain. Nah, bisa lah. Kita jam 9 live lagi. Ini jam 7 beres. Quartararo bisa nih ternyata. Di belakang. Enggak, bukan kerjaan. Buat pribadi ada deh. Menit lagi kan. Untuk keperluan pribadi bukan kerjaan. Copy that. Main di 2 race betul. Tapi ini masih belum optimal nih lap time-nya 139. Harusnya ntar kalau tracknya udah kering banget bisa di 136 sih harusnya. High 136, high 136, tapi kalau tracknya masih belum optimal ya 138 mungkin sih.
That the Portuguese Grand Prix in 2025 is over, unfortunately, for Ralph Fernandez. He suffered a nasty blow to his upper right arm, the humerus bone, in that crash yesterday. The right shoulder popped in and then popped out and then was straight back in. He did have to go to a nearby hospital for CT scans. We did see him out this morning, but clearly the pain, the discomfort, the feeling just not there for Ralph Fernandez. He's going to rest up then, and hopefully we'll see him back in action in the season finale in Valencia. Speedy recovery, Raul.
Yeah, we wish him all the very best. So we have 11 competing in this Q1 session. It is still Fabio Quartararo and Enea Bastianini. One not at all surprising, one quite surprising based on their
bagi-bagi sembako dulu kita.
In 2025, have to once again give a shout out to Buliga.
Kayaknya 2 minggu deh.
He's just 62 thousandths of a second away from joining his teammate Pecco Bagnaia in qualifying 2. Rins is 4th from Frankie Morbidelli, who was slowest of all in that free practice 2 session and still taking a little bit of time to get up to speed. Frankie 7/10 to drift in 5th.
Stuck right at the wrong end of the top speed charts once again. Our 3 Yamahas, Quartararo, Oliveira and Rins. 333 kilometers an hour is Rins' best speed, as opposed to Marini's 345 kilometers an hour. And Quartararo's getting a little bit agitated once again, isn't he? A little bit frustrated. He is in control of this Q1 session. His first mission, his only goal as mentioned is just to get himself out of this.
Kalau nggak ikut lah, itu ada kok. Oh iya, belum keluar ya? Kenapa ya? Efek cedera kah? Efek cedera, efek jatuh kemarin kah? Iya loh, belum keluar loh. Wah, aku ketinggalan info ini.
And Alex Rins in 4th place. Brabin is having a bit of a tough early session here in Q1. He's down in 9th. And Miguel Oliveira, nothing really going once again for the
Aku lupa lagi jatuhnya kayak gimana.
Is this a reason why?
Woo!
Well, he hasn't had a too many favors from Italians on Ducatis, has he so far?
Morbidelli thing ini udah.
Because we saw Buliga properly pick him up in the end.
Tiada hari Morbi, tiada hari.
From the ultra aggressive Frankie Morbidelli.
That wasn't quite the same
Morbi,
as,
Morbi.
Frankie nearly
Aku lupa ya jatuhnya gimana ya.
last time out in Malaysia, but Frankie will say there, I'm on a qualifying lap, I've got to go for it, I've got to be on the racing line and do my own thing. And perhaps Morbidelli, Oliveira should
Gak high set parah sih.
Frankie's way. The rider who I think we should be expecting a little bit more from in the final 6.5 minutes is Luca Marini, who's down in 7th at the moment on that factory Honda
Udah?
40.4 as an
Belum.
A-Bash Genie.
Emang udah
Gives us
bisa
a
ya?
good idea of what kind of ride he's got on his KTM. But Marini at the moment down in 7th place, the thick end of a second off the pace.
Well, he's fast. The problem is it doesn't look like it's the most comfiest ride, does it, right now on the Tech 3 KTM as far as an AM
Ya kan?
is concerned.
Emang gitu.
49.738. The Morbidelli Oliveira incident will be looked at by the FIM MotoGP stewards.
Menurutku yang di delay 10 detik, 15 detik itu supaya nggak ngelek-ngelek deh. Menurut aku ya. Karena kalau 0 detik kayaknya agak nggak mungkin sih, pasti ada delay gitu. Kayak aku kayak gini juga pasti ada delaynya juga. Entah berapa detik, 1, 2, 3 detik kan. Nah, kalau di web itu kan memang biasanya pasti ngelek-ngelek kan, jadi mereka nge-previews gitu kali. Kayak di YouTube gitu, di previews atau dijeda dulu berapa detik, habis itu dinyalain lagi. Buliga bisa lolos. Bisa jadi nih. Buliga sampai bilang loh, Moto itu nggak guna. Anjir. Tapi dia membuktikan sih Moto2 rada nggak guna. Lihat dia sekarang. Salah.
They'll need more, won't they, as well? 39.5s and 39.7s are highly likely to cut the mustard here.
Iya, Moto2 nggak guna buat naik ke MotoGP katanya. Nggak tahu sih. Tapi ini lumayan dia. Q1 bisa P3 walaupun di practice kemarin jelek ya.
Miller's waiting to be released by his Prima Pramac squad. Miller at the moment down in 6th place for the 140.340. Is he waiting for Quartararo? Maybe he's going to try and slot in behind the Frenchman, who just gives a nod to his crew there. Fabio's ready to enter the fray once again. They drop him off the stand and away he goes.
Worked in Phillip Island, didn't it, for Jack Miller? Although you remember when he said, I did an unbelievable lap. I thought I'd done a lap that would have put me somewhere near pole position, and yet Quartararo was still pulling away from me. He is indeed going out.
Apa ini Quartararo kebantu low fuel ya? Jadi bagus di Qualy. Apa problemnya udah beres? Jadi dia bisa improve, bisa kenceng dia.
Yeah, Marini has felt like some big opportunities in terms of race results have eluded him because of poor qualifying performances of late. He was only 13th on the grid last time out in Malaysia. There was a whole burst of sort of Q2
enggak sih. Kayaknya paling lapnya dikurangin. UB Underbone 150 di Sepang berapa lap? 10? Ya paling dikurangin segitu. Ya sebenarnya nggak terlalu ini juga sih, nggak terlalu panjang juga tracknya kan. Ya sedang lah Portimao tuh. Kayaknya nggak begitu banyak. Kalau Malaysia karena tracknya panjang juga. Wah, mulai Marini improve ini. Terancam Quartararo. Kayaknya roll withdraw deh. Iya, withdraw kayaknya ini. Vinales juga menurutku dia nggak perlu balapan lagi dah musim ini. Udah mending mending rest, mending istirahat. Anjir Bulega coy.
Look at Bulega. Bulega's just set the best first sector. What a performance this is by the 26-year-old Italian.
Penalti apa Morbi?
About to make a big play for one of the
Clean
top
kok.
2 spots here, maybe even P1 as he powers the Pertamina Ducati out of the
Agak
final
Willy
corner.
dia.
Over the line he goes.
Nah, Willy-nya tuh. Sumpah Willy tuh dia bisa ngurangin lap time loh. Bukan ngurangin lap time sih, memperlambat lap time loh.
Still felt like that final corner's a bit greasy. Somebody's gone down in sector 3. Look at this once again. Oh, Bulega's. Did Bulega get?
Is he the
Yeah,
rider down?
Get the? I think he might
he
be.
is.
Yeah, he is. Oh, Bulega.
He's moving again on the track, but as he just ran off the track, look.
Ya, jatuh dia.
But not down, so he's got about 3 corners to clear those tires up.
What a shame because
Anjir, udah kenceng banget loh. Oh, nggak jatuh ding.
Just running off into
Running
the gravel
off.
trap at the top of the hill. He's done really well actually to stay upright there on 2 wheels.
Sayang banget.
That lap was potentially going to put himself inside the top 2. Marini has now taken charge of this
Anjir.
one session. He leads it with a 139.
Ini apa nih LFT Liverpool lah? Ada Soboslai nih, Soboslai, Dominic Soboslai.
As this track evolves, as it starts to get more rubber laid down it, the lap times are tumbling big style. And Marini, Quattararo,
Ya sama Miguel,
as you
enggak,
can see,
aman-aman.
we're gonna be in the 38.
Sama aja yang kemarin sama Quartararo.
37.974 best time of the weekend so far by Alex Marquez. Marini then on the factory Honda charges towards the finish line, so close to a 38, a 139.003. Quattararo, Miller and Binder going to deliver our first
Iya.
38.
Kalau yang kasusnya Bulega tadi memang iya. Yellow flag memang. Bahaya juga coy. Off track ke gravel gitu terus ada yang jatuh kan bahaya juga.
Both Quattararo and Miller within a whisker of matching their best times.
Binder nggak bisa ngapa-ngapain. Oh ini ding, muncul deh.
This track now is coming to the riders.
Beres nih Binder udah.
After the overnight rain. Here is Binder. We track him down in 11th place. Needs a big lap. Finds a big lap. Not enough though.
Lumayan lah Binder.
Checker flag, so he's not going to be going into Q2. Best from Binder is going to be 14th on the grid with a 139.360.
Aman Quartararo dah.
That's Quattararo. What's happened to Quattararo down the hill into
Mr. Qualy nih.
A 138.661 at the moment. It's getting Quattararo comfortably into Q2.
Yeah, I don't think anyone's challenging that at the moment. We've got Marini and Bulega still on track. Morbidelli got round. He's through the first sector, but already 2 tenths down. So has Quattararo. I think it's coming out of 4 that he's had some sort of issue. Let's have a look then as he goes wide onto those curbs, which might still have a bit of water. In fact, as he drops over the other side of the curb, front wheel goes skywards, and already there Quattararo will have known that the lap had gone.
So does the 38.661 secure Quattararo place in Q2? It looks like it has. Fair play to Nicolo Bulega, a 139.674.
Mana ya mereka?
In 18th place.
Mereka sih mana spawnnya?
Behind Fabio
Oh, ini.
Quattararo. Of course, he had the mistake up into turn 14. Swanky Morbidelli there on the 21 Ducati charges
Matt
through
Cookie.
the final corner. Nothing going, I'm afraid, as far as Morbidelli's concerned. No action taken after the stewards have looked at the Morbidelli Oliveira incident, which I think is the fair
Good
conclusion.
luck, Evan.
Oliveira can say
Have
that he's
gone.
to the You've Been Morbidelli's club. Quattararo then and Jack Miller, the 2 Yamahas, have booked their spots into Q2, a 138.661 from Quattararo. His best weekend
Bulega
time
bisa
is
rocket start.
38.9.
Tuh sayang banget ada 18 dia startnya. Bagus banget padahal. Sayang banget itu tuh. Mistake-nya terakhir tuh. Mana habis itu harus bersihin bannya lagi. Lama juga bersihin ban tuh. Iya, nggak oke coy. Tapi Alex Marquez berdominasi sih. Pace-nya lebih kecil dari Peko anjir.
He caught the checkered flag 5 seconds or so before he finished the lap, so he didn't get the chance. If he'd been over the finish line 10 seconds earlier, he might have got himself into Q2 because he would have had that extra run available to him at the end. Well, he might not be the happiest Frenchman
Ini
we've ever seen,
aku
but
kenapa di
Fabio
sini?
Quartararo has at least cleared that crucial first hurdle and through to qualifying 2. So
Udah
he will have the
1:07,
opportunity to
udah
challenge.
beres.
As remote as that
Kan
chance
cuma
may
15
be,
menit.
he does still have the chance to fight for his sixth
Ini paling
pole of the
istirahat
season.
5 menit kan. 18:15 lah mulai lagi.
In Germany, 15th on the grid for
Ya
Morbidelli.
withdrawn dia.
His qualifying form has deserted him of late, hasn't it? Morbidelli 13th on the grid in Indonesia, 17th on the grid in Australia. 30 was, of course, in the front row in Malaysia, but aside from that, qualifying performances of late have been a real
Wah.
struggle as far as Morbidelli is concerned.
Coba tebak-tebakan aku menang apa enggak nih.
Further back, Bastianini, 6 quickest, but Quartararo and Miller, the two
Kalau
young
mereka
stars
dikit menang
in
sih.
Q2.
Harusnya menang nih, harusnya. Tapi kalau mereka anjing. Sepertinya berat. Ini kok Kodas sama Snowflake-nya agak berat nih. Tapi kalau kita agak banyakan harusnya kita yang menang. Lag kan maksudnya?
Who will start at the back of our grid of 21 for the sprint later on today, with Ralph Fernandez setting no time and withdrawing from the rest of the weekend.
So, Fabio Quartararo still in the hunt for what will be pole number 6 in 2025. Poles already in Jerez, Le Mans, Silverstone, Assen, and most recently.
Ayo cepet. Aku belum langsung ke sini. Masuk ke sini. Langsung ke sini. Ambil tengah.
Not the easiest of rides, it's fair to say, for already a 2-time winner here in Portimao, Fabio Quartararo then. And Jack Miller. Coming up next in Q2 Live here at the Algarve International Circuit.
Langsung lari.
We find out who will be on pole position in chapter
Gas.
21 in
Gas.
2025.
Oh kayak sempit gitu ya. Yoi 21. AFK tuh 2. Kanannya kosong.
Welcome back to the roller coaster. Welcome back to the spectacular Algarve International
100.000.
What a place this is in Southern Europe, and what a venue it is. For round 21 in this year's MotoGP World Championship, we have never ever had a round 21, have we, since this great series started all the way back in 1949. Well, here we are in the present day, ready for qualifying in our 21st chapter of a season which has seen Marc Marquez return back to the top of the World Championship. The Portuguese fans, well, they are out.
Cara ngambil ini gimana anjir? Tai lah.
Being at least Miguel Oliveira's home farewell to the MotoGP World Championship. Blustery conditions, but thankfully dry conditions. This part of Portugal's spectacular Algarve coast was hit by a little bit of overnight rain. There was some disruption to the early morning action here. Both Moto3, Moto2
Ada sobos lay.
sessions were run on a damp surface. We've just seen Q1 take place though here in
Ususi.
MotoGP.
Main United ini, petnya MU nih kayaknya nih. 100.000 deh setauku, seingat aku.
Is Alex Marquez going to be one of the favourites? Of course he is. He was superb yesterday here.
Berat nih lawannya nih.
Fastest in FP1, fastest in the
Berat ini lawannya.
session. So far the only rider that's found a lap in the 137s here this weekend, as he looks for just his second pole position of the campaign. His only previous one came in front of his home crowd at the Circuit de Barcelona.
Oh jadi berat nih lawannya nih.
He did go on to win one of 3 Grand Prix, which has secured Alex second overall in the World Championship. Pecco Bagnaia, of course, our most recent pole starter. Last time out the Sepang International Circuit in Malaysia. It was tight yesterday when we ended that hour-long practice session. Just 0.08 of a second covering Alex Marquez.
Gak akan bisa ngelawan Mulan aku.
This one should be pretty punchy here in Portimao.
Nah, satu lagi mana?
Difficult qualifying session to
Ya
call
elah,
this.
anjir mati cok.
With Fabio
Bentar lagi.
Quartararo and Jack Miller advancing on Yamahas, all 5 manufacturers represented. I think all 5 have got half a chance here of fighting for pole position. Yesterday,
Ada yang ngambil nggak?
all, well, 4 of them were in the top 5.
Kita ambil ini lagi.
KTM, Aprilia, and Honda, with Alex Marquez and Bagnaia 1 and 2. Acosta for KTM,
Ya matikan lu.
Aprilia 4.
Yo gitu doang.
Mia has been on the front row of the grid here in Portimao before on a Suzuki.
Lari.
Of course, we can never
Lari.
be brave enough to write off Fabio Quartararo, no matter how his factory Yamahas behave.
Gabe gombel namanya.
Session, of course, he has the
Yang juara dunia tuh Barry Baltes, percaya nggak? Yang juara dunia Barry Baltes. Manu malah ngecing anjir kayak akhir.
Including in the last 4 Grand Prix, Costa 4th on the grid in Japan, and in the last 3 rounds he has
Nggak dapat
started
ini mulu loh.
becoming a very familiar 5th place, middle of the second row in Mandalika, Phillip Island, and most recently in Sepang. So it's today the day that Costa finally
Dapat run
finds
yang
himself
bagus loh.
back on the front row of the grid. Haven't seen him on the front row since his Motegi pole on our Flyway Tour of 2024.
Well, as we started the day, it was still a very patchy, wet track for free practice too. There are still
ada ini
one
mic
or
resistant.
2 damp patches around the racetrack. Certainly off the racing line is still a little bit damp, but from the evidence of the lap times in qualifying 1, treat it certainly on the racing line as a dry track now. Quartararo did a 1:38.661 in qualifying 1, which compares to a 37.9, the best that Alex Marquez did yesterday in practice. That for Fabio Quartararo was just half a tenth shy of what he did in practice yesterday afternoon. So this is going to be a dry Q2.
And Jack Miller the same. Both Quartararo and Miller were almost on identical times that they managed yesterday. So straight away, as that track got fully dry, they were able to find pace on par with what they managed in practice yesterday. So here we go then, the penultimate qualifying session in MotoGP underway here in Portimao. 12 of the fastest riders in the world about to try and tame the roller coaster under what are beautiful sunny skies. It was rather grey and gloomy throughout proceedings on day 1 here. Sort of intermittent light rain was falling throughout our opening day as the green light then flashes on at the end of pit lane. And the field led by Pecco Bagnaia charges down the hill into the first corner.
Mana sini musuh-musuhnya?
For Bagnaia in Brno, in Motegi, and in Sepang, of course, last time out. Enea Bastianini was our most recent pole starter here. Unfortunately, the beast not able to get himself out of Q1. You saw Marc Marquez there, 2023 pole here in Portimao. That 1:37.226 remains the fastest ever lap we've seen in MotoGP around the spectacular undulation of this
Anjir ramainya.
Portimao track.
Pedro Acosta there briefly was up behind Alex Marquez. He's now dropped back a little bit, let the Aprilia of Bezzecchi through.
Wah, mati aku sama sebos lay.
Various strengths and weaknesses
Udah
yesterday.
sekarat.
Alex Marquez and Pedro Acosta. Acosta absolutely
Jam
right
12.
into the first sector, aided of course by the top speed
MotoGP race-nya.
of the KTM, getting him down to turn 1. He was strong really through 3 sectors of this lap, but then lost so much time to Alex Marquez through the 4th sector, with KTM's weakness potentially through those longer corners in the final sector. So keep an eye out for that in the final sector. That's where Pedro Acosta loses a lot of his time.
It's been a spurt of front row starts lately for factory Aprilia rider Marco Bezzecchi. Recent poles in Austria, in Misano, and in Mandalika. A bunch of front rows to boot as well in Hungary and in Australia. As
Kemana kita?
in Q1 charges the factory Yamaha up the hill, out the final corner. This is where the Yamaha really does suffer with that sort of lack of poke at the top end as they charge through 4th, 5th and 6th gear and down the hill blind
Just
entry
20.
into this
Oh, nggak aman.
ferocious braking zone.
Bye bye
The first
dude.
corner, they drop back 3 gears and scrub off over 200
Alah, dibantuin cok.
into that turn 1. So 38.6 the best in Q1, 37.9 the best of the weekend so far. Quartararo attacking hard on the brakes down into turn 5.
He was millimetre perfect that time coming out of four. We saw him make a mistake there in qualifying one when he just dropped off the wrong side of the curb and got some massive wheelie when he returned to
Kuat nggak coba lawan dua? Kayaknya enggak deh.
take some extra risks on this first lap that the majority here can't, because he was on track 10 minutes ago in qualifying one. Of course, the disadvantage he has from coming through Q1 is he doesn't have as many fresh tyres available to him.
So often in this part of the weekend in 2025, Fabio Quartararo has been able to pull a rabbit out of the hat. Is he going to be able to do so once again on this occasion? Some of the best single laps we have seen in 2025 have been produced by the number 20. Attacking hard again. He's really pushing at the front end of that M1, isn't he? Now through 13, dropping down. Circuit really does start to drop away from you here as you come through this right-hander of 14. Bumpy section here, and then now down the hill once again. Just right now into this final corner, and then you start climbing up over the hill. Fabio Quartararo will be our benchmark lap time of 38.518, which is already the fastest time of the day so far. That's a whisker inside what he managed in Q1 earlier.
Harusnya enggak sih kalau MotoGP Brasil mah. Di J8 lap pertama. Rame nih di sini. Rame banget anjir. Dia dijajang ke Garage sector dong.
Michelin rear tyres, he was on the gas coming out of turn 5. He said in these low grip tracks it's where the Yamaha really does suffer. That's one key area that Yamaha have got to improve on their new V4. The V4 designed primarily to get a bit of horsepower that Yamaha have been sadly missing, but you also feel that they have to find some solutions to this long-standing and lingering rear.
Mana ini?
Hot laps coming in then from Bagnaia, from Alex and from Bezzecchi. As you can see on the bottom of your picture, Acosta looking for his first front row start of 2025.
Bezzecchi's right behind Alex Marquez, which could really pay him dividends in the back end of just behind the pair of them, looking to try and pick up some pointers to solve his woes in the final sector. Acosta just at the top of the picture there, about to enter the final corner.
Bezzecchi P1 ini.
Leading Bezzecchi. Bagnaia is about to cross the line any moment now. He's going to be touch and go with Quartararo. Bagnaia across the line, and he goes into provisional pole.
Tuh, sendirian lagi. Bentar dulu. Simpen dulu. Ada bos ya, buat ambil bosnya. Itu nggak ada yang mah. Alex Marquez, DJ masih 9 nggak tuh? Twist ya, taruh jago anjir, masalah Qualy anjir. Karena low fuel juga sih.
To kick off our 21st sprint Saturday of the season, putting up another strong fight here for the front row. 6th place at the moment for Aldeguer. There's been only one front row start so far in his stellar rookie season. That came on a dream weekend for Aldeguer. Second on the grid, of course, he started in Mandalika.
Menang nih harusnya nih.
Went on to finish second in the sprint, and then one better in the
peringkat berapa? 7.
Become the second rider in history to win a Grand Prix. Looked like he might have just rolled out of it there, didn't it?
So Bagnaia at the moment is giving up a third of a second to the front row. A 38.5 for Pecco puts in fourth ahead of Quartararo and Aldeguer. Mir on the factory Honda was put in a 38.8 at the moment. He's in 7th place. Mir did a 38.1 in drier conditions, but as I say, it's pretty much a dry track at the moment. So Mir still has plenty to offer too on that factory Honda.
I go in 11th place. Only the 3rd time this year he's been directly through into Q2, a 139.306, the best from the Japanese rider. Agura's best yesterday was a 38.4, so
City from
he's
behind.
Second off the pace that he managed yesterday. As the pack peel back into pit lane then.
Udah diambil, Cok.
The opening attacks in this Q2 session.
Udah diambil semua.
73 of Alex Marquez, who he himself said, having secured second in the championship in Sepang, is fully unleashed now. No stress, no pressure. He's going to ramp up the stress and pressure on some of his rivals if Alex continues in this vein of form, because clearly
9 anjir,
he's the
Jija.
standout rider of this round 21. He's making it look rather easy as well. He said yesterday, so in the flow, so quickly in the groove, everything, the lap times just felt like they were coming easy for Alex. And when you're in that kind of zone, very potent combination to defeat Alex Marquez, and that Ducati GP24.
Well, it's essentially a calendar year since we saw Pedro Acosta on the front row of the grid. That's currently where he sits in 3rd place, and the likes of Alex Marquez and Marco Bezzecchi will be wary of Acosta if he's on the front row of the grid, because they probably won't see him on the run down to turn 1 this afternoon, tomorrow in the Grand Prix at 1 p.m. local time here on the Algarve coast, because we know how rapid that RC16 is off the line.
Yeah, last year in the Grand Prix, when he became the only teenager ever to podium in MotoGP, did Acosta. Just one of 5 riders in the modern MotoGP era to stand on a podium in the first 2 races of his Grand Prix career, keeping some very illustrious company with
Dia ngejar aku, mana anjir yang ngejar aku?
Lorenzo all the way back in 2008, Danny Pedrosa in 2006, and most recently Jorge Martin in 2021. Acosta knows he's going to be right in the game if he is going to be on that front row.
Ini siapa, Cok? Bahas Moto3, apa yang mau dibahas?
Previously 4 podiums in 5 with 3 wins. You always felt like he was going to sort of penciled in potentially this Portimao circuit as one of his options to break this barren run, still winless. This is what Grand Prix start number 40 in MotoGP for Acosta. I don't think too many of us thought he was going to be entering GP start 40 MotoGP without a win. Well, that's as it stands, trying to rectify that particular scenario. But here tomorrow in Portugal, as Alex Marquez then out of pit lane, on course as it stands at the moment to register just his 3rd ever pole position in MotoGP. It's going to take some to wrestle that T, so watch away from Alex at the moment.
Well, what he hasn't done on this occasion is gone out with Marco Bezzecchi right on his rear tyre, which he had for that first run. So he's going to force Bezzecchi to do a lap all on his own, and he's going to be able to do his all on his own.
Ayo, kejar aku, kejar aku.
Paul Espargaro would expect they're just regulation.
Sudah sih ada selalu bersedia gara-gara ya red flag.
Still remaining. Paul at the moment set to start for the middle of row 3 in 8th.
So here is Aldeguer, then back of the 2nd row in 6th place.
Gak kena, gak kena, gak kena, gak kena.
Miller's opening burst in that session of 39.535.
Mati doang.
6/10 away from its Q1 benchmark. As Aldeguer then picks up the pace, charges down the start-finish straight, drops his right leg there just to get a bit of stability on the brakes down the hill into turn 1. That's where we pick up Bezzecchi as well.
Yo, keran kedua. Iya anjir, Rekos. Mau gimana lagi anjir? Kalau Fernandesnya cedera. Tapi masih ada kemungkinan loh besok ini balapan di Valencianya. Kalau cedera ringan mah bisa-bisa aja harusnya.
This is going to be close, isn't it? Well, close as far as Aldeguer and Bezzecchi are concerned. Maybe not close as far as
anjing berat so si WW Gombel. Gak kuat.
Those 3 on your screens are threatening 37s here.
I've seen a bit of this through the weekend with Alex Marquez. The first sector not too strong.
Nah, Dija mulai strong tuh.
Is where we see a lot of good work from Alex Marquez. Bezzecchi now a quarter of a second inside, and we are closing in on the 137s once again. Pedro Acosta further back down the racetrack. He's about to come through the 2nd sector. He's around about a half a tenth down on Bezzecchi, but up on Alex Marquez.
Yeah, Aldeguer's struggling.
Ada yang datang, ada yang datang.
Strong blitz in the first sector. He's losing time in sectors 2 and 3 at the moment. Is Aldeguer. No problems at the moment though for Bezzecchi, Acosta, Bagnaia and co. They're looking really strong. You can just out of your picture, there is Jack Miller there, top of your picture right now. He's using Bezzecchi as the perfect reference here on the factory Aprilia ahead of him. We're going to find the first 137 of Sprint Saturday here. It's going to be fired in surely by Marco Bezzecchi. Over the line he goes. He duly obliges a 137.556. Bezzecchi was lightning fast in that final sector.
37.5 anjir.
By Bezzecchi. Miller goes up from 12th to 4th. Acosta finds a 37, a 137.930. He's on for a season best. Second place.
Woo, 7.
Jumps up into P3 for LCR Honda.
Ayo,
What a late session this
2
is
lap
proving
bisa
to
yuk,
be.
nambah.
Bezzecchi, Acosta, Zarco, then at you moment your front row.
And Alex Marquez isn't really responding to that at the moment. He's a quarter of a second down. No matter how good he is in the final sector, Alex is going to have his work cut out to overturn that. Here he comes on the 73. He'll have 2 more attempts after this one, but he had a poor second sector did Alex Marquez. As he now crosses, it's going to be a 37, but it's not going to beat Bezzecchi. Alex Marquez only 3rd.
And Bezzecchi and Acosta, they ain't done yet, are they? So too Alex Marquez, but look at this from Marco
Toprak
Bezzecchi.
M1.
He gained 0.2 of a second in that final sector. Quattararo once again delivering something super special for the factory Yamaha team. Quattararo 137.8. Somebody's gone down. I can hear somebody's down in my headset. There's been a fall. It's Alex Marquez. Alex Marquez there, fighting to get himself back on the front row of the grid. Fastest in
Untung DJ lagi nggak fast lap anjir.
Alex Marquez has crashed out while he was sitting in 4th place.
Turn 3, I think. Looks like turn 3 that Alex Marquez has gone down, which will have brought out yellow flags, but he was at the back of the queue. So it won't affect Bezzecchi and Acosta, who are going head-to-head at the moment for pole position. It won't be Alex Marquez. He won't be on the front row. It's Bezzecchi versus Acosta.
Bezzecchi then charging towards the finish line. Over the line he goes. A 1:37.575.
Opportunity knocks here.
So close. What about Acosta? Can he snatch pole position then? With just over a minute remaining here in this Portimao qualifying session, up to second. Shows how good Bezzecchi's 1:37.556 was. Clinging on to the front row remains Fabio Quattararo. Joan Mir jumps up to 6th place. We've got Zarco, Mir and Miller at the moment. Well, Zarco, Mir on the second row with Alex Marquez. How costly though could that crash be for Marquez? Is he going to get pushed further down the order?
Well, the one rider who might push him down, he's had 2 scruffy laps, is Pecco Bagnaia, because he's down in 10th at the moment. He's not improved on that 38.5 he did on his first run. He had a mistake in the 3rd sector on his first lap of run 2, and then he's clearly had a problem on his second one too. So Bagnaia's got one more shot at this. He has just set the fastest first sector though.
And Acosta still plugging away, still fighting with all of his might on that factory KTM to take pole position here in Portimao. Pecco Bagnaia also trying to rally late on, and he needs it because at the moment he's down in 10th place. Only Iagura and Polispargo as Acosta's made
Yo, dikejar lo.
So that's
Cookie gila, cookies gila. DJ udah N8, PC 10, ini dia startnya 11. Berharap kok nggak nyalip DJ ini lap time-nya. Minimal rotary nggak sih?
Bezzecchi then now, can he improve on a 37.556? No is the answer. He's taken the checker flag with Fermin Aldeguer as well.
Polispargo's on a pretty decent lap too. He might get himself in amongst the 2nd or 3rd row of the grid. So Alex Marquez, wherever he is, we're watching this very, very closely because this could bump him back to 5th now with Bagnaia, who had a really good 3rd sector. He might even sneak ahead of Acosta here if Pecco's got the final sector right. He's out of the final corner now. Beating Bezzecchi might be a tall order. Bagnaia just gets ahead of Alex Marquez into 4th.
Fabio Quattararo's backed out as well as keeping a close eye on Quattararo because he had an excellent first sector. He was only down by 100th of a second on Bezzecchi's best lap, but unfortunately Quattararo, as you can see, he's just he's called it off. Is he going to be on the front row of the grid? Polispargo.
Okay, nice. P3 DJ, P3 Pro 3. Lumayan. Miller Mir, oke lah, nggak apa-apa lah.
Marco Bezzecchi, well, both Alex Marquez and Pedro Acosta, they picked out the Italian on the factory Aprilia as potentially being one of their big threats, their big rivals for success here this weekend. Well, that was a prediction that was bang on the money here, wasn't it? Bezzecchi then on pole position on the factory Aprilia, just as he was most recently in Red Bull Ring in Austria, in Bazan in front of his home crowd, and in Mandalika. Alex Marquez, well, 5th place in the grid was not what Alex came for. Here he is then going through turn 2. That was never settled at all, was it? He's just going to wash the front out, going through turn 3. That mistake then, we'll see Alex Marquez start the 12-lap sprint this afternoon and tomorrow's 25-lap Grand Prix of Portugal from the middle of the 2nd row in 5th place.
And we'd waited eons for a Ducati-less front row of the grid. We finally had one in Phillip Island. Well, for the second time in 3 races, there is no
Mengelawan
Ducati on the
dia.
front row of the grid. It's an Aprilia, a KTM, and a Yamaha that will start on the front row of the grid. Surely Acosta will motor down to turn 1 first. Later on, as he's now taking the scenic route on his way back to the pits, he threw everything at that. It is his first front row of the season, and Acosta is well and truly in the game to fight for victory here.
But if you close your eyes. See you. Lagi nggak tahu tuh kemana dia.
And then crashed out of podium contention in the Grand Prix as he was hunting down Pecco Bagnaia early on. Well, Marco Bezzecchi, it does look like Sepang was just a minor blip, doesn't it, of late for the factory Aprilia team. Another pole for Bears, another pole for Aprilia. Let's get the thoughts of the boss, Paolo Bonora.
Paolo, once again, when he needed to deliver,
See you.
delivered. Pole position for you guys, and with Alex on
Dapat
second
pole,
row, it feels like
Bezzecchi
a
malah
big
yang pole.
opportunity again.
Not bad, huh?
Not bad.
And to be honest, we have seen that he tried for the third lap. So it was not bad because he confirmed the first, the second, the third lap all the same lap time. So it seems to be that he has
Mati.
good confidence with the bike.
Absolutely. Seems that way, absolutely. Well done, Paolo. Thank you so much.
Mati nih aku nih sama Snowflake.
By Marco Bezzecchi's Paolo Bonora said there his
6 minutes.
run, he was just reading off mid-37s for absolute fun. It's secured in pole position number 8 of his MotoGP career, 12th in total for Marco Bezzecchi. Frankly, it wasn't that close, was it, at the end of
Menang, menang.
himself in Parc Ferme at the end of Q2 for the first time in well over a year.
Bisa nyolong nggak ya? Bentar.
How does he keep on doing it out of Q1 with a 138.661, which was a pretty impressive lap time? Quartararo back on circuit for Q2 and found another 0.8 of a second to put himself on the front row of the grid once again. That's the 10th time this year the Quattararos put that Yamaha on the front row. We know they pay him big money, but he certainly does earn it.
He earns every last euro and cent of it. Well, he dropped the bike, and you could make a case to say that Alex Marquez dropped the ball, really, in that qualifying session. Many have him as the favourite coming into this Super Saturday. He may still be
Mending ngendok
the
sini.
favourite for sprint victory later on, but he is going to have to do some overtaking. A footnote and some good news for his older brother further back as he's watching back in Spain. Alex Marquez is qualifying down in 5th, means that Marc Marquez has won the BMW M Award as the top qualifier of 2025.
Not for the first time, there's a nice shiny BMW, then heading to the Marquez household. He can at least still smile about it. He'll be frustrated. He'd have wanted minimum at the front row. At the end, well, yesterday Alex was the only rider in the 37s. This morning, as the track really came to riders after the damp start to proceedings, there were 5 riders that found laps in the 37s. Marc Marquez's all-time lap record is still intact. Nobody really getting close to his 137.226. Would that have been a different story? Maybe if we'd not had the overnight rain, which clearly would have had an impact on grip levels. As Marco Bezzecchi goes hunting for the boss.
14 anjir aku.
Fabio Sterlachini there just embracing Marco Bezzecchi. What a job he's done behind the scenes as the new tech head at Aprilia. Marco Bezzecchi then.
Wah, aku diserang sama si Awas anjir.
That's a big fillip, of course, for his hopes of securing that 3rd place in the World Championship. He might need the suit for the gala on Sunday night. In 8 days' time at the Ricardo Tormo circuit in Valencia. Well, we can see Fabio Quartararo coming very, very quickly to speak to Jack, and he's done it again. Fastest in Q1 and on the front row once again with another sensational qualifying performance. Fabio Quartararo 3rd, and he's with Jack.
Fabio, you've done it again. You had to pull something special out to get onto the front row, and that's exactly what you've delivered. In such a tricky session, how have you managed to pull that off?
Yeah, to be honest, I didn't expect to make this lap time. The first session I was without the earplugs, so I was a bit not focused, but
Vasco da Gama.
yeah, I did a great job. I didn't expect to do that, but especially I think that for us is the first lap that is good, and I did it. So really happy, and hopefully we can find a bit of pace that actually is what we miss.
Great job.
Thank you.
He might be missing a bit of pace, but he's not missing talent. He wasn't missing speed in that Q2 session, was he? What a top-notch talent Fabio Quartararo is. Two riders on that front row who really are having to work hard and muscle machinery that's, fair to say, not at the level of some of their rivals at the moment. When you look at Pedro Acosta on the KTM and Fabio Quartararo on the Yamaha,
Banyak.
but both of them delivering something
Banyak kali,
special.
weh.
It's his first front row start in over a year. No wonder he's got a massive smile on his face. Pedro Acosta second, and he's with Jack.
Pedro, we've spoken to you plenty on a Saturday afternoon and a Sunday afternoon, but it's great to see you on a Saturday morning after 21 times of trying this year, finally onto the front row of the grid. How much of a relief is this?
Well, for sure, it's true that in the last couple of qualifyings we was making a good job, but this will make everything easier. So let's see how then is the race, because we see Marco and Alex that have amazing pace, and I think we are working well for this. Let's see what is going on.
Great job, well done.
Thank you.
Yeah, fantastic job by Pedro Acosta. He was third fastest yesterday. He's gone one better to secure that first front row start of 2025. Only the fifth time, actually, Acosta in 40 MotoGP races that he finds himself on the front row of the grid. And when you just look at his CV here in Portimao, well, there's no question that he will know that this is a wonderful opportunity, perhaps his best opportunity in some respects, to add his name to our winners list in the MotoGP World Championship this year. Can he be winner number 8 of this campaign? Marco Bezzecchi, though, once again on the factory, Aprilia was just...
Yeay, menang udah. Loh,
Jack Miller then
tambah.
on the grid with a 138.217.
Tadi udah end perasaan.
Are we going to get another look at... We are indeed. Miller Airways is flying and ready for departure. Look at this by Miller. You just knew that yesterday was just a bit of a warm-up act from the Pramac Yamaha rider. We love it. We love it. We know that Jack loves it. Just look at that.
Udah beres nih udah.
That is just... Well, it's as jaw-dropping as this Portimao circuit is. Not sure the Olin suspension engineers and some of the Yamaha technicians are going to be too happy about it, but Jack Miller thrilling the crowd here in Portimao once again, just as Marco Bezzecchi did on pole position here in Portugal, and he's with Jack.
Marco, proving that Sepang was just a blip, back onto pole position, and your pace looks electric. Just how confident did you feel out there?
Atau 5 atau 6
Yeah, I'm very happy because from yesterday we made a good step, and today I was able to be fast since the beginning. So very happy, very grateful to my team, to my guys, and now we have, of course, the two main events, the sprint today and the race tomorrow, but for the moment I'm enjoying it, so let's keep working and let's keep trying our best.
Gak war banyak aku.
Thank you.
Yeah, fantastic job that by the 26-year-old Italian. Do you know what? We've got a sprint and a race on here, haven't we?
Oh, yes.
This weekend in Portimao. Bezzecchi looking fantastic on the factory. Aprilia. Pedro Acosta, of course, desperate for his first win. 7th different pole in 7 Grand Prix here in Portimao. Fabio Quartararo on the front row. Alex Marquez, who's looked so strong all weekend, having to come through from row 2. Don't discount Bagnaia as well. Juan Mir's been strong on the factory Honda. Bit of work too from 7th place on the grid. But yeah, you're not going to want to miss the 12-lap sprint this afternoon, the 25-lap Grand Prix Portugal here tomorrow, because
No, blusak nih.
both of them look like they're going to be crackers here at the Algarve International Circuit.
There are a few riders who will be going all in. Acosta for a first victory. Alex Marquez attacking from 5th, and of course with nothing to lose now in the championship. So much to get excited about. And Aprilia were the only manufacturer before today without a pole in Portimao. That has now changed. Marco Bezzecchi on pole for the 4th time this year ahead of Pedro Acosta.
Belanja.
No Ducati on the front row. Their first runner, Bagnaia 4th. Alex Marquez after his crash 5th. Good qualifying for Johan Zarco to be top Honda. 2nd row in 6th ahead of Mir, Miller and Gian Antonio. Pol Espargaro 10th. Aldeguer will be disappointed with 11th. His fellow rookie Ayaguro next to him on row 4. Marini eliminated in Q1. He'll be joined on the 5th row by Binder and Morbidelli. And Nea Bastianini 16th ahead of Alex Rins. Nicola Buliga. It could have been even better than that for Buliga, but but still a very impressive run to qualify 18th. Miguel Oliveira, his last home Grand Prix from 19th ahead of Salvador Chantra and Noel Fernandez, who's withdrawn through injury. Marc Marquez has won the BMW M Award, one of the few things he hasn't won yet in 2025. Alex Marquez is qualifying of 5th, means that he can now not catch his older brother, who has the keys now to a brand new BM.
Well, that was once again.
Teret. Apakah ada yang minta jabatan? tiga. Saatnya kita main karavan. Ayo Sun, gas. Salah. Sama. Eup, 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 eup. Ada Bahrain.
Sarung BHS sudah ada sejak tahun 1953. Iklan YouTube merupakan
change for last place and not last in LMGT3 as Darren Leon goes by teammate James Costingham. The two United also
Ada race nih.
at the tail of the field. Graham, as you said earlier, United moving on to start development of McLaren's hypercar from next season. So who takes over the reins here?
I think Gary's 59 and they are here in strength. We'll see Alex West, one of their drivers and team owners, rookie test tomorrow. Sadly, one of these two cars will also the other two owners, Chris Goodwin, no relation,
Ryzen in 12th place. The Cadillac right behind Earl Bamber under pressure now from around the outside from Lawrence Fantor. Now, was that a mistake from Bamber? Has he got an issue? Yes. He's a problem with the Cadillac.
I saw him take that curb heavily in turn 1. Oh, did he lost gears and lost momentum.
Emang udah pada join semua ya?
When he gets out of turn 8, but he was definitely in trouble there on acceleration. Sure, something happened when he clobbered that curb as hard as he did.
Ferdy Habsburg trying to wrestle his way past in the Alpine, but Bamber shut the door there.
So this is the next time he'll be using first gear into second. Does he accelerate when he? Yes, he does. So I wonder if he just like either hit a switch or something on the steering wheel when he hit the curb that hard, or whether it did just momentarily jump out again. Yeah, it's something definitely happened with the drive back car after that hit again. I don't know if we'll get to see a replay of that, but he hasn't taken that much curb in the entire race.
That's Ben Keating, so that's the 60. This is about to put a lap on Ben Keating.
That's for position.
Sorry,
Andrew Gilbert has just been gradually dropping down in the order. Pretty steady run from him, but not able to match the pace of a couple of the cars ahead of him.
And Keating
That's why.
so that's why he lost the time. So Keating's managed to make his way through the BMW as well.
See the BMW 31 there, just kind of having a big slide in avoidance, and so that cost them time.
Nyetrum anjing.
Car 46. Keating was behind that car 46 when last time we saw them on screen, so he's making headway.
Maybe that's all those nudges he's getting from behind. Meanwhile,
Kok nyetrum sih? Jadi nggak ada suaranya anjir. Aduh, tar dulu deh. Kenapa nggak ada suaranya semua anjir? Nah,
him already just last time out for Peugeot, but a win. Can you imagine? Into the very first time in this race car, the Lexus of Petro Umbraresco, so in from third place, so they're staggering their cars. This isn't Formula One. It's not
Ketarik dia.
you can't double stack the cars, Anthony. This is a much longer business. Just 4 people involved in the pit stop with the tyre change. And they're going for a driver change. Now, this is very early.
Yeah, so driver change there. Usually we see the bronze-rated drivers stay in for, well, as long as possible at the start of the race, because so much more can happen through the length of the race, and all you need is a safety car later on, and that can really play havoc with your strategy. So they try to get the bronze drivers in the kindest way out of the way as early as they can, just for pure strategy terms. Looking at the slow-mo here of Paul de Resta and his teammate Loic Duval at the wheel of their Peugeots. They sniff their best chance of victory, don't they? And they desperately want that.
Celia Martin stays in. No driver change in the 60 Mercedes of Andrew Gilbert either.
So you're only allowed 4 people in the pit stops here in all categories in WEC.
Salah pencet.
Over that white line at any time.
Now, tyre change for the 60 car. It may have been 1 rear, it may have been 2 rears.
Di belakang masih ada lagi nih, bentar lagi.
Hypercar train comes through LMGT3 traffic, but taking account, we'll keep an eye on board with Will Stevens. Ryan Hardwick, having been unplugged from behind both of the McLarens, is catching the Ferrari ahead.
And also
Satu doang.
bedding himself in and has really protected the tyres. That's key for Ryan Hardwick in that turquoise car. Here's the change where the Ferrari went by number 12.
Satu doang aja di belakang.
He's already passed the Aston Martin a lap or 2 ago, so he's on the charge now.
So we're seeing the Cadillacs fall back basically. So I know Bamber had that problem, but that's spin on the exit of 13. Peugeots.
So 93.
So big moment for Paul de Resta. So Loic Duval now up to 3rd, de Resta down to 5th, and in danger of dropping to 6th if Will Stevens has anything to say about it. In the 009 Aston and Marco Sorensen right there as well.
Yeah, Sorensen right there now with the Cadillac. He spotted the opportunity. Is there going to be a further problem though for that Peugeot?
The Peugeot's got very good straight line speed. I think he'll be okay. What happened? Was it traffic? Or did he just... Yeah, it must have been with the Aston Martin. I was looking at the first Peugeot first of all. It must have been. It's a very out of character mistake from Paul de Resta. Otherwise, no, it was the curb.
Trying to go inside the number 10 Aston to not lose ground and hook.
Aduh, error gara-gara ini anjir.
As well, he's gone over the inside curve a bit too much. The car's bottomed out. As we know, they have to run that car quite low, being a ground effects car. And wow. He hasn't got any flat spots on those tyres. He can get himself back into this race.
That virtual championship position, by the way, interesting because all it's showing is that what Toyota are doing is pushing Porsche and Cadillac further away from any potential result here.
Like they care. they just want to win a race. But no, you're absolutely right. And it's not always what you or your rivals do. It's where the other cars fall into play. 92, Ryan Hardwick stays in. Left sides only, left sides only.
Great stop. That was really efficient. You could see the crew at work there.
Well, they know this is about winning a championship. I mean, they'll do it all day, every day anyway, but especially so now.
But, you know, the F1 pit stops are impressive just because they're so fast and it's so well orchestrated between so many people around the car. I find these pit stops equally as impressive, although they're much slower, just because of the athletic nature of people running around and pulling these massive wheels off and on the cars. It really takes a lot of ability.
It's what 22, 23 people in a pit stop for Formula 1, 4 for this.
Yasser Shaheen side by side with Ahmed Al Hati. Can I just point out the pink car in front? Started 18th and last. Where are the Iron Dames now? Celia Martin is 9th. Here comes the 60 car. Now, a couple of cars have stopped, so that will resort itself. But she's doing a really excellent job in this first stint.
Both the MGs, by the way, switched drivers in those pit stops. We'll keep an eye on whatever else. All on pit lane right now, Stefano Gattuso from the lead of the LMGT3 race with others mitting around him.
Air temperature is only 30 In the car, it'll be more like 60 degrees. So actually, maybe keeping everybody fresh is a sensible option. Don't forget the 60 Mercedes just out of the pits and already starting to retake positions.
And was the car 61? I remember doing the driver change.
Bisa ada lagi nggak sih harusnya? Mana ya?
This is the silver driver in that car now. Yep. So 61 has switched drivers, but looking down the order, plenty of them are switching drivers, and that's what you're seeing at the moment is progress.
And you really see, as well, you also see, Graham, the difference in the decisiveness. That move down the inside into turn 13 there, you saw the nose of the car dip down. Is a driver at the wheel who is willing to take more risks in a way than a bronze driver, is naturally a little bit faster as well, and these are usually up-and-coming drivers, the silvers, that are on their way to stardom, becoming golds and the platinums of this world.
So Anthony, now the teams have to tell the hypercar drivers, pro drivers in the car or silver drivers are in the car, because suddenly they're going to be much harder to pass.
Absolutely, it's cars that you would have been seeing yourself pull away from before, suddenly they're on the attack and making moves like that on you.
Tuh, gua udah kepake 2 lagi. Teret, 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 teret.
I think we make up some positions, which is good. So let's see what we are doing the next few hours. But so far so good.
What's the tire degradation feedback been like?
Yeah, we know here is very high. We already discovered the first 2 days. So yeah, all the key point is to manage our tire. We know. So that's what we are doing in first part of the stint. Yeah, and, you know, then it's gonna change with less temperature in the night. So, but let's see. As I said, let's see.
Yeah, and what sort of degradation are you anticipating then over the next few hours? As we know from yesterday, the track changed quite a lot from about 4 o'clock, didn't it?
Yeah, as I said, the temperature dropped quite a bit. So also, I mean, the deck will be different, and also the balance is gonna change. From the beginning of the race at the end, so
Duh, sampai mana sih? Kenapa nggak ada ya?
the balance to have a mixed conditions. So let's see.
Good start so far, well done team.
Oh, ini.
007, 009, Aston Martin both in. Shaved tyres going on there, so those are tyres that were used in qualifying. Don't get fresh tyres every time. And 38 from Hurst Team Jota here. Cadillac Hurst Team Jota in the pit lane as well, expecting number 12 in as well on this lap.
Looked like a lot of brake smoke, didn't it, coming out at this early stage in the race from both fronts on the Aston Martins there. Something to keep an eye on through the rest of the race.
Siap-siap nih di sini nih.
Not a hybrid car.
It possibly can do, but they would have engineered the car to obviously cope with those kind of demands. But this is a very high energy braking circuit. As we see Brendan Hartley in the car number 8 now peel off into pit road.
And everyone behind him.
Teret, 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 teret.
Up to second, but Hartley, Giovinazzi, Di Resta, Will Stevens,
And what do they do?
Hansen, Nick Nielsen, and Julian Andlauer in.
What do they do tyre-wise on this Toyota? So the only teams running the front right medium, we heard they were happy with that, albeit maybe slightly low on temperatures even on the front right. Ferrari in as well.
There was no sign of tyres.
All 3 Ferraris in, by the way. BMW, they kept the 20 out. No, that car's none yet. They have split, so 15 in, 20 not.
No tyres for Ferrari. Just saw the Michelin man walk away with his hand up in the air, got a big thumbs up. Maybe they are going. Okay, Toyota, surely no tyres, not in that speed of a pit stop. No tyres for Toyota. So they're happy with what they've got, and more importantly, how they're using those tyres. 7 hours to go. Excellent stuff. So 1 hour down, and in another hour we'll only have a standard world endurance race to go.
And that looked slow on the left rear, didn't it, from the number 83 crew?
Yeah. Well, 51 came in ahead of them, went out ahead of them. There's a Peugeot ahead, Cadillac coming out in front of the 83. That's as they were.
No, the 50 car has leapfrogged the 83 in that stop.
Yes, it has, hasn't it?
Yeah, that's what I thought. The 83 had a slow stop because of that left rear.
Yeah, minute 21 seconds on pit road for the number 83. The number 50 by contrast, a minute and 18.
Loh, anjir muncul di situ dia. Weh, 15 minutes. Let's go. Kayaknya ada. Oh, belum dikembaliin ya.
Longer pit stop from the previous leader, because the number 8 car is away and clear through turn 1.
Only thing I can guess is that they've changed tyres.
Strategy, yeah. So a minute and 2 seconds in the pit lane from the number 8 Toyota. Everybody else who's done any tyre work, 15, 16 seconds longer.
And I can tell you now, just by the body language of that car, that was at least one rear tyre that was changed on Mike Conway, because as soon as he reached the pit lane speed limit, the car was squirming around all over the place, and that would only really happen if you're on new cold tyres.
Just a minute and 2, as Martin said, for the 8 car on the pit road. It was a minute 19 from the 7. A similar pit stop too for the number 94 Peugeot.
Sounds like a true tyre change. Let's go back on board. 009 Aston Martin, Marco Sorensen. In front is the number 12 Cadillac. So there have been changes, and in fact the 83 Ferrari is now down to 9th place, whereas their championship leading rivals in 51 are up to 4th.
Battle here between the number 12 Cadillac and the 009 Aston Martin.
Yeah, Marco Sorensen in the 009 really putting the pressure on Will Stevens here.
51 ahead of 93, Di Resta behind Giovinazzi. So Giovinazzi splitting the Peugeots.
That's a 94, isn't it?
Has he got ahead of Duval? He has got ahead of Duval. So Giovinazzi up to 3rd.
Wow. You can still see Duval weaving around, trying to get some temperature into those tyres on the Peugeot. This is how the move was done, down the inside into turn 8.
Driver of the number 6 Porsche. We just saw a stop. First question, what's the feedback from Lawrence?
Our feedback is good. I think he felt good in the car. It was just a bit of a waiting game at the beginning, not being able really to overtake on pure pace, but as soon as the
Iya, see you nanti jam 9 ya. Jam 9 ya. Bye.